hold on, here we go. Okay, so we're gonna do a sound check. Obviously, I'm gonna check in, make sure audio is good. So hold on a moment. Who have we got on so far? Hi, Michael. Second time I've seen you today. Hi, Sandy and Cheryl. Hey, guys. Are you guys getting good audio on our side? Can you just give me a yep? We sound good in the chat. That would be fantastic. In the meantime, I'm going to go out to Facebook and I'm going to take a peek and make sure we're streaming properly out there as well. And then when Tracy gets here, we're going to get started. So yeah, hold on a moment. There she is. Hi, Tracy. Hold on a moment. I'm just checking. Are we streaming? Here we are. Yep, there's Jen. There's me. Fantastic. Hi, Facebook people out there watching us live. Okay. All right. Looks like we've got about 2 minutes. Hi, Tracy.
You're just muted. You have to unmute yourself, Tracy.
Hi there.
Hi. Where are you? Where are you? Is this your house?
This is my office. I have a wonderful office space here that maximum creativity. It's lovely here in the mountains of Western North Carolina.
Oh, I know where you are. Every time I think about you, I get jealous. I'm like, oh, I want to move there someday. I'm telling you. Okay, so we've got people coming in. It looks like we're good with audio. All is well. Fantastic. We've got about 1 minute, but let's go ahead and we're gonna have some new people on here that don't know me yet as well. So I'll just start with a quick introduction of myself. And Tracy, I'm gonna let you tell everybody who you are. But I'm Carmen Hunter. I'm the founder of the Institute for Functional Health Coaching, Carmen Hunter Health, and the Health Coach Mentorship and Mastery Group. And I am a firm believer in collaboration in the health and wellness industry. Where I have holes in my training, I like to fill those holes with people who I believe are credible, reliable, smarter than I am, and have something amazing to offer. And Tracy is one of those people. So Tracy is everywhere. I get her emails regularly and her lives. And I want to say that I have a deep appreciation for you and the way that you show up. Because as we all know, many times it's hard for people to show up authentically in this space. And I think that you do a beautiful job of training, showing up as you are, and making people feel welcome. So thank you so much for being here. If you want to take a moment and tell us a little bit about how you got into this space, and we'll just get started with your presentation, because we've already got emails about it and questions coming from people that could not attend live today.
Okay, awesome, wonderful. Well, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate that we're kindred spirits here in the world of healthcare transformation. My name is Tracy Harrison. I am the founder and lead instructor here at the School of Applied Functional Medicine. Let's see, where do I start? I enjoyed a 17-year career in corporate high tech. I'm a geek. I'm a scientist by training. I quit actually at the pinnacle of my career because I was bored and I wanted to be a learner again. I enjoyed a lovely high tech career, but I was ready to really get that excitement of learning something from the roots up again. And so I, via a series of serendipities, ended up getting trained to be a health coach myself almost 15 years ago now, which, to be fair, I was not seeking to do. I enrolled in a program because my best friend was doing it, and I quit my job and I thought it would be fun to hang with her. And that's the truth. But Carmen, both of you have heard this story from me before. There were some amazing speakers, right? In and amongst the art and science of health coaching, there were some speakers who came and talked about different sciences with regard to nutrition and disease prevention and disease reversal and this type of thing. And the day that Dr. Mark Hyman introduced me to functional medicine was transformative for me, and really introduced me that we could bring the rigor of science in a completely different way to people who are sick and help them to not just feel a little better or band-aid or manage disease, but we could help them to make a specific set of lifestyle changes that would help the root causes of their diseases to go away. And every hair stood up on my body, right? Because the scientist in me was inspired. And I have enjoyed a nice, long, rich health coaching practice, most of that with the full practice. And so, you know, one of the main things I want to say to your audience here today is that the demand for health coaching is massive. And as you say all the time, Carmen, you can have a fully loaded practice, my friends. Please don't let anyone else tell you that. Because if they're just blowing their pessimism or their frustration on you, that's about them. It's not about you.
Right.
You can have a wildly successful practice, and many people are doing it. And it's just a matter of how you show up, and make sure you're showing up doing this work in a way that's authentic for you, right? That you can feel confident and vibrant doing. But for me, the particular way of showing up as a health coach is very scientifically anchored and really working with sick people, right? And there's a lot of ways to do coaching. It's not the only way. But I threw myself, courtesy of Dr. Hyman's inspiration, I threw myself into learning functional medicine, brought that know-how to my practice, and it transformed what I was able to do. Right? The efficacy, the effectiveness of the way I showed up as a health coach. And so I took all the functional medicine training I could get. Being a geek, the more rigorous, the more scientific, the better. But I started the School of Applied Functional Medicine in 2011 because the training that I got was really rigorous, but it was really missing that practical devil in the detail know-how that helps you apply the science. And it was really missing a lot of case practice, which is what most people need in order to really be confident using their knowledge in their practice. So I started a school to offer to the practitioner world what I couldn't find when I wanted it. And SAFM has grown, and today we offer semester program a few different times a year to about 17 different healthcare modalities, from practitioners from, I guess it's 55 different countries around the world. So it's a wonderful place to be, and my deep passion and my deep joy. So I love sharing knowledge and know-how, but I'm particularly passionate about speaking to this community and supporting you, Carmen, because health coaching is where it's at, folks. It is a unique modality, and it is critical. It's not an option. It's critical for transforming the effectiveness and the affordability of healthcare as we know it today.
Yeah. And you know what we also have in common is we both saw, we were looking for something, we couldn't find it, so we made it. Right? That's what I did too. I'm like, I need something that answers all of these questions. So I love that. I love that we have that in common. So the topic we're talking about today is going to be one of those things that everybody is like, oh, I've heard about detoxing or whatever, but you're going to dive into it in a way that we've not heard before. Cause I've watched you and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even absorb all that. Your brain must be huge. So I'm going to let you take it. I'm going to mute, but I want to remind everyone, go ahead and put any questions you may have in the Q&A. Please don't put them in the chat. I don't want to lose track of anything. And then if you're on Facebook, I am going to be monitoring, taking notes and things like that. I will watch for your questions on Facebook as well. So if you're out there watching us in the Clarity group, feel free to post your questions there as well. But from here, I'm going to mute and I'm going to go ahead and let you take it, Tracy. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I will also say I will happily share these slides, right? So that if folks want to reach out to you, or we can get them to some folks in some way. Can we see that okay? Does that look good? All right, awesome. So I want to talk about the concept of detox, because for me, and coming into the spring here in the US, this is a great time to talk about this, because toxicity is a very real concept in terms of promoting disease. But there are a lot of people out there whose educations about toxicity and detox have been informed by blog articles. And there's a lot of people out there talking about toxicity and detox in a way that it's not helping their credibility at all. We toss loosely around the notion that, oh, it helps me detox, or this helps me cleanse. And I'm not judging the intention of any of that, but if we want our work to be credible, we got to know what we're talking about, and we've got to talk about it in a way that's accurate. And so what I'm focused on today is really some baseline education that I think will be really fascinating. I encourage your audience to take pearls from this, and you could do a serious coup in terms of a workshop or a community presentation to share with people things that they don't know about toxicity and detox, right? At the end of the day, promoting your services by teaching is a powerful way to set yourself apart from all your colleagues, right? And don't tell people everything you know. They don't want to know everything you know. They want to be inspired and intrigued, right? You want your workshops and your seminars to be provocative, not comprehensive, so that they can't wait to reach out to you to learn more, right? But I encourage questions. We've got folks on the line here who can answer your questions, but I'm going to dive right in here. And just a couple of quick stage setting things, right? So at SAFM, we stand on the shoulders, of course, of people who've taught functional medicine for a long, long time. And Dr. Jeffrey Bland is widely credited with being one of the fathers of functional medicine. And it is from him that I talk about the concept of dis-ease, and that when we use functional medicine knowledge and know-how to help people to understand what is at play in their unique life system, right? It's not just their physiology, it's their diet and their relationship and their mindset and their personal hygiene products and their profession and their attitude and their mindfulness practices, right? Their life system. We're going to transform healthcare when we are better at engaging way upstream when there is mild dis-ease in a person's life system, right? This is when people are much more likely to reach out to a health coach, right? It's not highly debilitating, right? There's nothing that's bad enough to be diagnosable yet with that heaviness of a label and a diagnosis, and it has a prognosis, and it's scary, it's frightening, it's something people can go Google and get really freaked out about. But when we help people to get on top of the notion of dis-ease early on, we can help them to proactively reverse the root causes and hopefully prevent something further downstream. And a big part of this is about getting beyond this old school deterministic model that your genes determine your wellness. Even if you haven't studied the science, you probably know intuitively, this is not true, right? Because our genome is adaptive, and our environment is constantly informing our genes, and the activation of our genes is constantly modulating to try and help us thrive in the world in which we're living. So the choices that we make in our environment are affecting the way our genes work, regardless of what you think you've inherited. And our choices are informing our biochemistry. And the topic of the day is that there is a lot going on in people's choices that are toxic, knowingly or unknowingly, right? And ultimately, this is creating a huge amount of dis-ease and even downstream diagnosable disease. So one of the models that we talk a lot about at SAFM that I really want all of you to take and use in your own practice is that what the vast majority of people who are wrestling with, who have chronic disease, right, who have chronic symptoms, chronic inflammation, chronic challenges, right, is not so much about something in the body being broken. It's not about a congenital disease, right? It is about a disconnect between the choices people are making and then the life experience that they want to have. So without knowing it, most people are making choices that are causing their body to be stressed, toxic, inflamed, infected, malnourished, right? We want to do things that are about going and doing and going and doing and eating what's convenient and cheap and hyper palatable. And we don't want to rest and get well. We want to burn the candle at both ends and power through and live in a way that is promoting a sympathetic nervous system mode. Fighting, flighting, hiding, right? It's all about the sympathetic nervous system mode. And our body says, oh my gosh, we need to fight or flight or hide. I got you. I'll support you to do that, right? The problem is that how the body responds biochemically to the classic modern cultural choices does not deliver the experiences that most people want to have. Because the same people that are making choices to eat hypercaloric, hyperpalatable, but nutrient poor food, or to slather all sorts of chemical laden personal hygiene products all over their face and their body and their hair, and to not be rested and to be chronically stressed. Those same people want to look great, want to lose weight at the drop of a hat, want to have gorgeous skin, want to not have IBS, want to get pregnant at the drop of a hat, have perfect bowel movements, great libido, orgasms, awesome sex, no belly fat, right? But here's the thing, that's not going to happen. Not because the body is working against us, but because that combination would never be natural. Because the body will let you lose weight and keep it off. The body will let you heal. It will give you gorgeous skin and perfect digestion and fertility and libido when you are in a parasympathetic nervous system mode. But if you want the body to have a parasympathetic experience, you got to give it parasympathetic input, right? Which means not making choices in your life that convince your body that your survival's being threatened, that there's no good food anywhere. There's no relief anywhere. There's no sleep. We're threatened all the time. And so at the end of the day, it is very simple, my friends. The people who come to see us in our practice are doing a lot of things that are causing the body to behave in a way that they don't want. And it's not because anything's broken. It's because we're putting in one input and expecting an illogical output. And the three main categories for that, we can keep it very simple. It's about crap food, stress, and toxins. And sure, the people in our practices may know that this is an issue, but if they don't get the education, the inspiration, and the empowerment that they need to actually change their lives rather than just reading about it, they won't experience a transformation of their health. And this is where all of you are perfectly positioned to make this difference. So we know what crap food is, right? We're looking at it. I love pictures, right? You could do a whole seminar in just answering questions about why nothing on this slide is a good idea, right? We know what stress is. In fact, this cartoon in the middle is pretty much all you need. It speaks to even relaxation. We approach it from a going, doing achievement, right? I want to be on the cutting edge of relaxation. No, you don't. Not if you want to have babies and heal and be thin and have good bowel movements and good libido. You don't want to do that. You want to learn to really relax, really rest, really get rejuvenated. But that's hard to do, right? Because look at this page. Nothing in our life is about really relaxing. Our clients need us as health coaches because in order to not choose crap food, stress, and toxins, they have to be willing to be deviant. They got to be willing to be abnormal, weird, maybe even psycho, right? We get a lot of labels when we choose not to follow the cultural norm. And people need coaching when they want to make change, but they struggle. So there's crap food, there's stress, but the topic of today is toxins. And toxins go way beyond pesticides and herbicides on our food and all sorts of different endocrine disrupting chemicals and sunscreen, right? It's what we breathe, it's what we drink, it's what we chew up and swallow. A huge part of it is what we slather on our skin. So the first pearl I want to give all of you is that the skin is a giant mouth. And we really shouldn't put anything on our skin that we wouldn't be willing to eat. That's a really powerful truth to teach your clients. Because here's the thing, there's actually more protection from toxins with what you swallow than there is with what you put on your skin. Because what you put in your mouth, you chew up and you swallow, you've got protection in the small intestines. There's a huge planetary level population of microbiome that's protecting you. It's where 2/3 of your immune system is. Even if you absorb it through the gut lining, it goes immediately to the liver, right? For first pass hepatic assessment. So you have a lot of protection from toxins from what you put in your mouth. What you put on your skin, it's a semi-permeable membrane. It goes into circulation right away. There's no protection, right? So we shouldn't put things on our skin, right? Beauty products, personal hygiene products that we wouldn't be willing to eat, not because of taste, but in terms of safety, in terms of health promoting characteristics. And if you're only going to take one thing away from today's session, personal hygiene and beauty products is a 6-month program's worth of deep dive in any and every health coaching practice. Because people think they're buying clean cosmetics and they're not. People think they're doing the right thing by slathering sunscreen on all the time, and they're creating a hormonal disruption nightmare, right? And people just don't know. And this is where you, as a source of education, inspiration, empowerment, can make a huge difference. People need you to explain that the fact that we would expect a microwave popcorn bag, where, let me get this straight, it's got tablespoons of oil in it that you're going to microwave to crazy hot temperature, hot enough to pop the corn. And somehow that hot oil is not going to leak through that bag, but yet it's safe. Hello, folks, just common sense tells us that is crazy talk. The amount of chemicals that have to go into that bag in order for the company to be relatively assured of their freedom from legal liability, from you burning the crap out of your arm because oil is leaking through that bag. There's a massive number of chemicals that goes into that bag. And when that oil gets hot, most toxins are fat soluble. It comes out of the bag, it's in the oil, it's on the corn, and yep, you're eating it, right? Imagine how powerful it is to explain this to people, right? You could do a seminar for your clients or for potential clients and just line up 6 products and talk about them for 40 minutes. And you would have people waiting in line for your services because you've told them things they didn't know. And you didn't overwhelm them with information. You provoked them. You inspired them. Right? You told them something they didn't know. They heard something new, and they heard something that was maybe alarming, but something they can clearly see they could be empowered to do something about, right? That's where you can have a huge impact, not only on supporting your current clients, but on doing effective marketing to get new ones. So coming back to the whole notion of crap food, toxins, and stress, a really important concept for us to understand is that there is serious biochemistry of disease in these high-level concepts. Because when people consume crap food, not only is it loaded with calories, it's really nutrient poor, right? We know this, right? We know that we as practitioners consume a lot of really lovely food, right? But the average person we're helping is not going to just go out tomorrow and eat salmon and broccoli and kale, because they wouldn't know what to buy. They don't know how to prepare it, and they don't like it yet because their taste buds are still maladapted to lots of sugar and lots of chemicals. But crap food also causes immune hypervigilance. It increases cortisol levels. And in many people's bodies who are seeking our support, it looks like a toxin. Right? Can you imagine the immune cells down in our small intestines looking at what's coming down the pipe going, dude, seriously, do you see that? Is that a food? Is that a food? Because it looks a lot like the chemical we were afraid of last week. Is it a food? It kind of looks like a microbe. It looks like a chemical. Is it really a food? We've eaten it 3 times. Might be a food. Dude, I don't think it's a food. I'm developing antibodies. We're going to take it out. Right? Great example to give to your clients. We consume so much today that our immune system doesn't know what it is. It's not because our immune system is stupid or weak. It's because we're not being very selective about what we're sending down the pipe to the small intestines, where 2/3 of your immune system is. So a toxicity can be from crap food, right? And it can be from things that look a lot like a toxin, but it also is from a lot of things that legitimately are a toxin. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides are particularly potent endocrine disruptors. This means that they disrupt the normal regulatory systems in our hormone axis, right? Where the brain and the thyroid and the adrenal gland and the gonads, also in partnership with the pancreas, for example, are orchestrating our response to our environment. Well, if we're regularly consuming pesticides that make estrogen receptors more sensitive, a person's going to suffer from estrogenic effects, not because their ovaries have gone wild, but because toxins are promoting hormonal overload. Or if we are slathering a sunscreen on our skin that absorbs chemicals that actually look a lot like estrogen, that will fit into an estrogen receptor, and people get xenoestrogenic, meaning outside the body, estrogenic effects. You know, you can do everything you want to improve your human endogenous hormonal balance. But those chemicals are going to wreak havoc on hormone balance and keep promoting estrogen dominance, keep promoting nightmare PMS experiences, keep promoting highly debilitating menstrual blood flow, right? So this is where toxins, it's not just about the liver, it's not just about the kidneys. So much of what we're facing today is about hormonal toxicity, where chemicals are potentiating our own hormonal regulatory system. For that matter, the toxins that we bring into our body all the time, right? There's a huge myth, no big deal, right? We just pee them out. Not so much, because the vast majority of toxins we bring on board are not water soluble. And we know water soluble things and fat soluble things, they don't mix very well, right? You try to make a vinaigrette, olive oil and lemon juice, or olive oil and vinegar. You got to put something else in there to make them blend, right? You got to have some mustard or some honey or something that emulsifies the fats in order to make them better blend with the water. Well, a big part of our detoxification process is about making fat soluble toxins actually water soluble so that we can get rid of them. And if we don't do that, or if we don't do that well, or if we get an overload of toxicity looking at our entire life system, we don't make those toxins water soluble, so we cannot get rid of them. We can't get rid of them in our urine. We can't get rid of them in our stool. We can't get rid of them in our sweat. So what do? They keep circulating and the body stores them. Because the body is not a dumb bucket. The body is smart. And the body would way rather store toxins in fat tissue, in our bones, in our brain, than to have it circulating and affecting through circulation, through the blood, affecting vital organs and glands. So we have to be able to detoxify what we bring in. Right? We're living in a toxic soup here in the Western world. There's not a lot that we can do about that. We can reduce toxic exposure, but as usual, the best defense is a good offense. And so we need to be able to handle toxins. Well, detoxification takes nutrients. It takes amino acids and B vitamins and minerals. And if we're eating crap food, we don't have a lot of those to deal with. And if we're under a lot of stress, we're burning up a lot of those B vitamins, breaking down stress hormones. So what does that leave left over to handle toxins? Not very much. So this is where I want all of us to really understand, right? These are synergistic, right? Crap food makes it harder to handle toxins and harder to handle stress. Higher levels of toxins make us have higher stress and are more likely to make us crave crap food. High stress impairs our detox, and we know makes us eat crap food. And the crap food's not bringing on many nutrients to help us deal with either. So yeah, is it any wonder that our choices on a day over day basis are literally promoting the epidemics of chronic lifestyle disease that we see in our practices today? This is not rocket science. And one of the things that I love teaching about at SAFM is, yeah, we teach the rigorous science for sure. And trust me, the geek in me loves teaching about it, right? We teach about the core science. We do a lot of sharing of evidence-based research and do curated research reviews that our students can then go explore themselves. But I think what oftentimes we're missing is going beyond that knowledge to really get at the more practical know-how that would allow us to educate a client in an area they're interested in, because they've asked, they want to focus there in our work with us, so that we can educate them and they have the knowledge to begin to make different choices when they're ready. So I want to explore, and feel free, any of you here on the line, ladies, to interrupt me if you have questions, right, that are pertinent, feel free. But I just want to have some fun here, right? So exploring what is toxic, right? Let's expand our horizons, because here's the thing. The definition of toxic is anything that is innately debilitating to the body's anatomy or debilitating to the body's function, right? Our physiology. Well, we've talked about sunscreen and pesticides and endocrine disrupting chemicals in cosmetics, and there's myriad examples of these things, right? There's heavy metals like mercury and lead. We preferentially store lead in bone. So a pearl for everyone is that late perimenopausal, menopausal women, what are they doing? They're losing at least a little bit of bone mass density. Well, when we lose the density, the toxins that we may have stored years ago come out with it. So lead can go into circulation, not because there's current exposure, but because there was prior exposure. And that can promote hypertension. It can promote anxiety, right? Something to look for. Mercury. Body loves to store mercury in fatty tissue, especially in the brain. Some of these elemental toxins, the blood-brain barrier is highly permeable to, because they're natural, right? We all know just because something natural does not mean that it's not deadly, right? You can't get much more natural than a naturally occurring element, right? These are things on the periodic table. They're crazy toxic, right? Natural does not mean safe. Natural does not mean non-toxic. All sorts of things like dioxin, right? Dioxin hasn't been in use for decades, but it's still in the soil, so it's still in our bodies. Glyphosate, we could talk about for an entire half-day workshop. Glyphosate is ubiquitous, and it is a nightmare, folks. If anyone tries to tell you, oh, the research is exaggerated, no, it's not. What we do have a problem with is some of the people who are passionate about glyphosate awareness are falling prey to exaggerating and smearing the scientific truth a little bit, right? I'm not going to say lying, because they're not lying. They're exaggerating and munging things a little bit, which damages their integrity, which is something as a community we don't want to do, because then your whole message gets thrown out the window because you chose to exaggerate something by 15%, and now you're not credible. Please don't go there, right? Use exacting language, because the truth is frightening enough. The truth is exaggerated enough, right? Glyphosate is a huge endocrine disrupting substance, and it is increasingly being found in dramatic levels in our body. We do excrete it primarily in our urine, but again, that takes nutrients, and not everyone is efficient at excreting it, and we're being constantly exposed. So, you know, there are lots of things that we teach about that are toxins, right? Some things that we acknowledge are toxins, but what about things that are foods, right? Like proteins, like casein and gluten. Well, those are toxic to some people, not everyone, right? We have to look at bioindividuality. Aspartame, that's actually a generally recognized as safe substance. But if you've been in practice for a while, you probably know people who have readily tied their chronic migraines to aspartame, right? Or other types of neurotoxicity, right? Just because it's on a label, just because it shows up in a food does not make it safe. We know that. Your clients don't know that, right? They need to understand the devil in the detail. They need to understand bioindividuality around toxicity. Drugs, right? Drugs can be life promoting, they can be life saving, right? But no drug is a nutrient. Nobody is struggling with the deficiency of Adderall or deficiency of statin. They're all toxins, folks. And in fact, one of the biggest challenges of pharmaceutical product development is being able to outsmart the liver's really intelligent detox system long enough to get a drug to work before the liver handily gets rid of it, right? Every drug is a toxin. Doesn't mean it doesn't serve a good purpose. I believe drugs are blessings. I just find that they're overprescribed and they're too often used as first-line therapy. But every drug that's taken has to be detoxified. So it is accurate to say that drugs are potentially toxic. Fluoride, my goodness, lots of people in our practices are brushing their teeth with that, right? Where there's a mucosal membrane, where we are absolutely absorbing our exposure to it. A lot of municipal water is still being fluoridated. Fluoride promotes calcification of tissue, which if it's only your teeth, that's great, but it's not just your teeth. It's other soft tissue, like the lining of your arteries or the pineal gland. All sorts of interesting research on that. We can keep going, right? What about things that we don't even think about as being toxic? Radiation. That can be cancer therapy. It can also be too much sunshine, right? For your unique body. It can be innately produced things, right? So let's remember, toxins can be exogenously acquired or they can be endogenously produced, right? We can be exposed to natural toxins, right? Courtesy of the mold in the blue cheese you ate on that gorgeous salad last night, right? Or maybe the mold behind the wall in your bedroom that you don't know that is the reason you don't sleep well and the reason you have fibromyalgia. Lipopolysaccharide, right? A natural body part, if you will, of a bacteria, right? Gram-negative bacteria. If we have enhanced intestinal permeability because of other lifestyle choices like consuming too much gluten if we are sensitive to it, or using everyday medications like ibuprofen or oral birth control or antidepressants that promote enhanced intestinal permeability, then you get excessive amounts of lipopolysaccharide being exposed to the immune system. And we develop antibodies to lipopolysaccharide, and it becomes a big trigger for autoimmune disease. This is not a rare thing, folks. It's happening all the time. And these are everyday drugs, right, that people are using. Let's expand it. What about alcohol? What about too much sunshine, too much sugar, right? Homocysteine is something the body makes, and contrary to common myth in the progressive health community, homocysteine on its own is not toxic. We need to make it, right? If you don't make homocysteine, you can't make glutathione, which is the most important intracellular antioxidant. We just want to make the right amount of homocysteine, right? Not too much, not too little. It's a reflection of our methylation. Hydrogen peroxide, right? Most of us know right away that that's toxic. You wouldn't pick up a bottle from your medicine cabinet that you might use for first aid purposes and drink it. Well, your body makes hydrogen peroxide and all sorts of other ragingly toxic substances just in normal daily functioning. So there are a lot of endogenous toxins that we have to be prepared to detox effectively, or we're going to struggle with chronic toxic overload. Normal living and breathing, normal human metabolism produces toxins, produces formaldehyde, right? Okay, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. Cholesterol. We know cholesterol is not an evil substance. It's the membrane, it's in the membrane of every cell in the body. It's the starting point of every steroid hormone in the body. It's not evil. That's crazy talk. It's a necessary substance. But if we have too much in a body that's already inflamed, in particular with arteries that where the immune system is already highly activated, then cholesterol can be used as a weapon. It's really an innocent bystander, but it can be used as a weapon. What about estradiol? You need lots of that if you want to have a beautiful baby. But if you have too much estradiol, or more importantly, much more commonly, estrogen becomes toxic because we don't detoxify it down the pathways that make it safe, and we don't clear it really well, right? Poor gut health keeps estrogens recirculating, right? I call it retoxifying, right? The liver gets estrogen metabolites all queued up to send through your bile ducts and get passed into and made into a stool and excreted in a bowel movement. But then depending on our microbiome balance, that estrogen gets separated from its toxic escort and gets reabsorbed again to wreak havoc another day. And the body ends up retoxifying itself with too many hormones. Just to bust a myth, right? There are very few women out there struggling because their ovaries have gone wild and they're just making too much estrogen for fun, right? That is really uncommon. What is extremely common is normally functioning ovaries, but a massive load of exogenous chemicals that are potentiating that estrogen or that are mimicking that estrogen, and then we're not clearing it very well, right? That is very common. So we have to think about the fact that everyday things, right? Dihydrotestosterone is the most potent androgen that the human body makes. This is a very common reason for early balding in men or prostate issues in men. It's a common driver for PCOS in women, right? So you can learn about why do women make too much DHT? There are reasons you can help them with, right? But the point being that this is a normal human male hormone, right? An androgen. But we can end up with too much of it. And then, yes, it becomes a toxin, right? So it's not so much about what's toxic. It's more about who is the person in front of you and what is toxic to them uniquely, right? Carmen and I could have the exact same number of silver fillings in our mouth, which are 50% mercury, right? We could have the exact same number of them, right? She feels great. She feels fantastic, right? She's not lying. Her body handles it really well. She detoxifies the mercury. She excretes it. She's not very vulnerable to it. She's got a good, solid blood-brain barrier. She's protected. Meanwhile, I'm a mess. I have not one, not two, but 3 autoimmune diseases, right? I have highly debilitating fatigue. I can't seem to get B12 active in my body anywhere, right? I am mercury toxic. And in that sense, it's less about what we're exposed to. It's important what we're exposed to, but it's much more about how do we handle it? And what's the collective basket of toxins that we're being exposed to? So I'm going to go ahead and just cruise through these, right? But just expanding your list of things that can be toxic, right? If a woman gets pregnant without doing the due diligence to make sure that her body is ready to be a good, healthy vessel for a fetus, then she may struggle with toxic breast milk, right? It doesn't mean that breast milk isn't still life-giving, but it means it is a vehicle of delivering toxins, right? I can appreciate that's a painful message to hear, but we know it's true, right? Cord blood is loaded with toxins. Breast milk is loaded with toxins. Overwhelm is my favorite example of toxin, right? Anything that makes people not sleep well is toxic. Anything that makes people ruminate constantly on the badness in their life is probably more toxic than anything else on this page, because it will put you and keep you in a sympathetic dominant nervous system mode, and nothing you want to experience is going to be what goes down, right? People need to know this. You're in a unique position to educate them.
I'm so glad you touched on that, on trauma and rumination and negativity and all of that. I mean, it is, I have to say, and I, you know, it's important enough that I interrupted you on this, is that, you know, that's why we added addressing trauma to IFHC, because it is something that I've worked with hundreds of clients, and I'm like, what is going on? Why are we not reaching these goals, right? Every single time we dug into perfectionism, trauma, core beliefs, programming, problems from childhood, we found the reason why they didn't get well. Yeah. You can do it all right. You can eat all right, sleep well, all that. But if someone doesn't get well and you haven't explored that, you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Thank you for touching on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. I agree 100%. And even when we really geek out and are looking at all the biochemical imbalances and the physiological issues, which I'm a fan of, by the way, if we're going to help someone to not just get well, but to stay well, my experience is that 100% of the time, Carmen, you will go upstream enough to find a chronic emotional burden, a trauma, a crisis, a limiting belief, an automatic negative mindset, right? Because the body naturally does not want to be unwell. The body is designed to be crazy well and vital, not just feeling fine, you know, okay. I hate that. Is that really all we want to strive for? I want people to feel fantastic, where they can't stop talking about it, where yes, we still have the exuberance that we did when we were a young person. We believe that's impossible just because it's not the cultural norm. Yeah. The body is designed to be that way. It's all of the crap that we load on top of the body's natural vitality that becomes an issue. And by far the part of our environment that we're experiencing the most is our thoughts.
Hands down.
So just moving along here, right? Because, you know, I think these big picture messages are probably the most important ones, right? But it's true that, like I said, people's toxic tolerance is unique. It's not just about what they're exposed to. It's about the combination of genetics and nutrition and all the other things that are at play. Two people can have the exact same exposure and have radically different experiences in terms of downstream suffering. We don't have time to go through all of this, but I just wanted to share this, right? We certainly teach about it in terms of what is involved in detox. Well, it's a lot more than one might think. It's not just peeing out or pooping out something bad. There are biochemical transformations that have to take place in particular in order to get the toxin able to be excreted from the body. And that's a 4-stage process, right? There's a phase 0, a phase 1, a phase 2, a phase 3. And there's a lot of high-level wisdom. You know, if you're dehydrated, you're not going to detox very well, right? If you're constipated, you're not going to detox very well, right? But there's also the devil in the detail around if a person is taking 3 medications that are monopolizing the same phase 1 detox pathway, they're going to struggle because those 3 drugs are all competing for the exact same biochemical conversion. And if you are even marginally insufficient in those key nutrients, then the drugs are going to back up. And they're more likely to have side effects from those drugs, right? The main reason for drug side effects is unrealized blocks in phase 1 detox. Because then people are given a standard dose and it has an unexpected effect, right? Where the actual experience in their body is more than intended or less than intended. There's a common myth that the best way to detox is to stop eating protein. Bad idea, because phase 2 detox requires amino acids. Every single type of phase 2 detox requires amino acids. So you don't have to eat animal protein if you don't want to, but you've still got to be getting plenty of amino acids, right? Unlike fat, which the body will store pretty much forever, the body does not hold on to more than a couple of days worth of amino acids and sugars. So you must get them. Otherwise, you're going to be leaning on your body to pull it from other tissue. Well, if you're doing intermittent fasting or a fast, it will pull from body fat, right? But if you're doing things like trying to promote detox on purpose, it's going to pull amino acids from our muscles. It has to. So we need to make sure that we are supplying nutrients, right, in order to detox. Phase 3 is about getting the toxins out of the cell and actually then getting them out of the body, right? The primary way toxins get into the GI tract is via bile. Having a gallbladder is a really good idea. It is not an optional body part. Oh, that's such a debilitating myth. It is not. I don't know. Last I looked, nature wasn't making optional parts, right?
Oh my gosh,
The tree out here doesn't have like a rogue hand that, you know, just looks good. It really is not serving a purpose. The gallbladder is not optional. The appendix is not optional. The stomach is not optional. It's crazy, crazy. We need bile. We need to concentrate bile. We need a bolus of bile to serve a number of downstream effects, right? Antimicrobial, emulsification of fats, transport of toxins. Yeah, we want to have good bile synthesis and good bile flow in order to get toxins out of the body. You know, people say, why do I have to eat fruits and vegetables? Does it really matter? Well, I'm going to give you a biochemical explanation for that question. Yes, it matters, because there's 2 phases of transformation of toxins, and it is classic in modern Western culture that we're really good at phase 1 detox and we are not too good at phase 2 detox, which means chemically, but we leave a lot of toxins partially transformed. And they are more water soluble, but they're also more polar, and they tend to be reactive intermediates that can go and do all sorts of oxidative damage. And the reason you eat fruits and vegetables is so that you have an exceptional defense in order to counter these effects, right? Because if we want to get toxins actually out of the body, we have to be effective at all 4 steps for detox. So I'm gonna hand off these slides again, and the next couple of slides I just pulled from one of our clinical courses because I thought it would just be fun to share. Certainly don't have the time to talk about it, but I think folks will love reading through this. I give you some clinical references down at the bottom, just an example of how we teach at SAFM. But we talk about what goes wrong with detox, right? And again, one of the biggest issues in modern Western life is that, you know, the kinds of things that we like to do as typical cultural choices are about increasing phase one, but we don't like to do the things that upregulate phase two. So is it any wonder that we struggle with massive amounts of oxidative stress in our body? Damage to the lining of our arteries, damage to our brain, damage to our gut lining, damage to our liver, damage to our kidneys, right? There's real science behind the oh so common patterns that we observe. And so, let's see here. Whoops. We talk a lot about glutathione and how important glutathione is, right? And you know, there's nothing, it's not rocket science about glutathione. It's a molecule that's made from some amino acids that come from your protein, and it needs you to methylate, so it needs B vitamins in order to be synthesized. It needs nutrients like zinc, right? So we got to have a rich, diverse diet. The whole adage of you are what you eat is false. You are not what you eat. You are what you eat, digest, absorb, convert, and get past the cell membrane. And that is a much higher hurdle, right? The primary message I wanted to offer here that I think will surprise a lot of your audience is that we take a lot of supplements, you know, and this is a real mixed bag, folks. There are a lot of practitioners out there whose definition of functional medicine is just replacing drugs with supplements. That is not, it may make sense. I'm not criticizing it, but to label that as functional medicine is crazy talk, right? That's just trading one substance for another. And it may be a less toxic substance. It may be a substance that's actually addressing a root cause. But at the end of the day, supplements are things, right? They're nutrients. There's a lot of herbs in the supplement world, right? And the herbs are also not endemic to the human body. So herbs also have to be detoxified. And we know that there's all sorts of things that we think of as bad, like smoking and inhaling, you know, VOCs and absorbing pesticides and all these kinds of things. And we knew, oh my gosh, they block detox, right? They block the pathways. Well, what would you think if I told you berberine blocks pathways? Curcumin blocks pathways pretty dramatically, actually, right?
Ooh, touch on that real quick, because I've tried to take it in the past and I'm like, I do not see why this is so, this makes me feel worse.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? We need to approach any supplement, unless it's a nutrient that we have data that says they're deficient. Then I get that. It's a nutrient. The body expects to get a nutrient, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to choose a good clean supplement and in a form that's bioavailable. But stepping aside from that, all of these phytonutrients and herbs, right, and plant compounds, they have to be detoxified. We're going to have a unique reaction to them. And so to your point, just like drugs, Carmen, there are plenty of people who don't tolerate the flashy, fancy, oh so popular hip supplements.
Mm-hmm.
And so every supplement we need to educate our clients about by saying, and it works really well for some people, right? Clinical research shows that. It doesn't work for anyone. Please write this down. It doesn't work for everyone. Nothing does. There is no supplement that works for everyone. Not a single one. There's a whole bunch of marketing campaigns that are going to tell you that. No supplement works for everyone. Supplements have generally a better batting record than drugs, but they still only work for a portion of the population. And when toxicity is a dramatic issue at play with someone's disease process, we need to take a keen look at how many supplements are they taking. Because I am being increasingly convinced, given the research, that because we see that the levels of nutrients that are in food tend to, not always, but tend to improve detox pathways. Levels of nutrients that are in supplements tend to block detox pathways. And so if you really want to help someone to promote detoxification and you're going to do like a cleanse, right? And I'm all about having a couple of times a year where we focus on, you know, let's really focus on detoxification. That might actually be a really good time for them to take a partial supplement holiday and remove the herbs. And maybe we leave critical supplements, right? Maybe we leave digestive support. Maybe we leave a nutrient that they really need and we know they need it. But we get some of the possible blocks out of the way, because I can report the science until the cows come home, right? And there's a whole ton of curated references down here. And, you know, I probably read 100 medical studies in order to cherry pick 8, not because they're 8 that prove my point, because there are 8 that are that fascinating, and they're all very recent publications, and they're generally pretty readable, I think, for people who maybe don't have scientific backgrounds. But we're just getting started understanding how phytonutrients affect detox pathways. And just because you know, a given nutrient in a food is good, it doesn't mean more and more and more of it is better. It doesn't mean taking a double or triple dose 3 times a day, it's just going to have better and better effects. And it doesn't even mean that's going to be innocuous, right? So we need to be smart and savvy about supplements. I think this type of science reinforces not making us afraid of supplements, certainly respectful, but I think the general wisdom that I like to teach, which is supplements can be really valuable for a targeted purpose for a period of time. But our work, our opportunity is to still help people to go upstream to address the root cause so that the supplement and whatever it's doing is not necessary, right? The whole notion that the endpoint of functional medicine intervention would be someone walking away on 15 supplements, I don't know. I think that's pretty rare, right? So I just want to shift the perspective that a lot of people have. We could certainly spend days going through case examples of this, right? But my message here is more general. I think what a lot of us can really highly emphasize in our practices is the big picture, because scientifically, we're just starting to understand the minutia, right? We need to learn to see the forest and not get too enamored with the bark on one tree. And so I'll finish here just in terms of the reality is there's a whole bunch that we can teach and inspire and empower our clients to do that has a dramatic impact on detoxification. Because if any of these things are in the way, detoxification is impaired, right? And these are general concepts that apply to everyone, right? Like I said, it doesn't make any sense for someone to, you know, do a cleanse when they're constipated. That's dangerous. It just means they're more likely to keep reabsorbing toxins and retoxify themselves and wreak havoc on the GI tract, on the intestinal lining. Why would you want to do that, right? The best defense against disease is health. And these are the kinds of things that create health, promote health. And health naturally repels disease. It naturally empowers and accentuates the body's innate ability, which, contrary to common myth, is really strong and very resilient. Our natural innate ability to counter disease.
I love this slide, and I'm like a speed reader, right? I can read this slide in like seconds. And here's what it tells me. Again, another parallel belief. This is not like groundbreaking information. This is the basic stuff that we have moved away from. I feel like the more knowledge, you know, practitioners, coaches, and people have, the more they lean away from the basic stuff. Like, I mean, come on, eating healthy food, you know, keeping your gallbladder. I mean, this is very doable stuff right here. And I can so appreciate what you're saying about take a supplement for this and a supplement for that. The word supplement, I wrote an article many, many years ago when I first started health coaching about what a supplement is. And it is something, you know, to add in that you cannot get. I mean, like people don't understand that. They think if you know, you can get a salad. So you don't take a supplement because you can't get a salad anywhere, right? I mean, it's a lost art. Eating healthy, sleeping, moving your body in a way that feels good to you. It seems to be lost. So this is so much appreciated. And I know it seems simple, but I like simple. I like the basics. I like the simple approach. Everything's getting too complicated today.
Yeah,
I really believe
our
that.
clients like the simple too, because they can understand it. right?
Yes. Yes.
And I will share that once we address the simple, it becomes much easier to see what is truly outlying that's more complex.
Yep.
If we don't address the simple, it's total chaos, right? And then this
Yes.
is where everybody, not just a coach, but a dietitian, a physician, right, can get totally overwhelmed because there's too many moving parts.
Mm.
And we think that the myriad complexity complex pathways in the body, we're going to like master them and nail them down and define them. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
There's just myriad complexity in the human body. And so our priority needs to be on these things, right?
Yeah.
And so I am not against supplementation. I do find it's a bit like drugs though, because they're being overused and saying they're all set. I gave them all the supplements they need. Okay, wow, no, they're not all set. You've just gotten started.
Yeah.
And that's great. You've begun. But if they're taking the handful of supplements that they may really need to fill gaps right now, my input is you're so far away from done. You're 10% in. You've literally just gotten started.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a beginning, and that's awesome, but you're not done. And the
Yeah.
only way you're going to get raving fans who submit raving testimonials is to treat that as just the beginning and continue your work to go upstream and actually address root causes sustainably.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me just throw this question in from Heather. She's asking, would a whole food supplement be a better choice?
That's a great question. It depends on the person, right? So, something that the scientist in me has to be very clear about. I'm not prone to hyperbole. So when I get excited, it's because I'm really excited and there's a reason to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get over excited about, oh my gosh, this is the perfect supplement or this is the perfect food, because the right answer to all of those kinds of questions is it depends. Who are we talking about? Who is this person? If this person is eating McDonald's and TGI Fridays and Dunkin' Donuts and that's their daily diet, I think any kind of supplement you can help them to take is probably a really good thing. Anything that involves nutrients, right?
Yeah.
Because helping them to actually acquire, take home, and prepare foods that they like is going to be a huge uphill battle. It's doable, but it's going to take time. It's not going to be a one-day exercise.
Right.
I generally think it's so much better to just eat the food. But sometimes we start working with the client and we know that them eating the food is probably about 3 months away. Then please bring on the whole food supplement, right? But on the other hand, if people generally eat a healthy diet, but we know that maybe because of their genetics, like I have MTR and MTRR SNPs, I'm homozygous for both. I have to work really hard to keep even barely acceptable levels of vitamin B12 in my body. Their cardiovascular disease runs rampant in my body, not because of other issues, but because we can't get enough B12. And so we don't methylate very well. And so, yeah, I take a high dose B12 supplement because I know from data that that is exactly what I need. And I know but from experimentation, what I really need to get there. A whole food supplement isn't going to remotely have the dose that I need to be in an optimal space. So that's not the right answer for somebody else. It's just for me. And so the answer for a lot of these is it depends. People get all excited about the only kind of real supplements are whole food supplements. Well, I have to respectfully disagree. For someone like me, it would be of zero help. Mm-hmm. It just wouldn't, not because it's not a good thing, but it's not the optimal solution for me. It's not intense enough to matter. Yeah. So as people who are helping clients and patients, we have to get savvy at puzzle piecing and listening keenly so that we can be in a better place to partner intuitively with the person in front of us to help to discover together what they uniquely need.
Yeah. And to remind them that even though, we're suggesting this whole food supplement at this point, this is not going to fix what's going in your mouth as food. We need to work on that in conjunction with what, because sometimes I feel like people say, I take my Juice Plus every day, or I drink my this, or I take that, so I can eat this, and drink that, right? I think they forget that, no, the goal is to not have to do that by replacing food, So I think we want to make sure we don't provide a crutch for people or an excuse.
I actually had a new client one time. I still remember this. This was probably a decade ago, where I remember him saying, oh yeah, I take supplements. It's awesome because, I figure if I take that multivitamin, I can still eat my sausage hoagie.
Yeah.
You know, and most of the time it feels good. And when it doesn't, I just, you know, take an Nexium.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. That's actually all you need to know. That's a 6-month program right there.
Yeah.
There's so much we can do in supporting people.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got questions coming in. Is this the time to bring them in?
Yeah,
We're at the, okay. So Milena, I think, what are your thoughts on testing, blood tests, etc.?
Blood test period or blood test for toxins?
Yeah. I think let's stick with the topic of toxins.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I generally am not a fan of toxicity testing. And here's why. There are millions of toxins. And then there's a whole bunch of things I mentioned that there aren't even tests for them because the scientific world doesn't consider them to be toxic. It's just a problem for that unique person. So you can test individual things, and I think there's some awesome testing available out there. It's just very limited in scope, right? So there's a company called Quicksilver that has an awesome mercury tri-test. I think if you want to know what's going on in your body with mercury, I think that's best in class right now, right? But mercury is one thing, right? Even if you test for, okay, well, let's cast a wider net. Let's check for lead and cadmium and arsenic. Okay, well, what about glyphosate, right? What about PCBs and other POPs and benzene, right? I mean, there are thousands and thousands of chemicals that can be toxic. And the whole notion that we're going to do a panel and hope that we find the one that's a problem, at the end of the day, I think the best way to respond is more about identifying exposure in aggregate and supporting as fully as possible the body's ability to detoxify and clear. Having said that, sometimes clients need data before they get inspired to change. And we've all run into that, like, I'm not toxic, you're crazy. Like, okay. Well, it's interesting. I know that there are some ways you can learn about toxicity. Would you maybe be interested in learning about that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? And we're coaching, right? We follow the drive of the client. Sometimes people need data to go, wow, look at that. I do have that. Who knew? Mm-hmm. And then in that case, that is a health promoting choice for them to have the data to see that there is a concern that then they can more objectively decide whether they want to respond to it. So I think testing sometimes can be really valuable, but I'm also sensitive that expensive, like a $500 test, would buy an awful lot of fruits and vegetables and an awful lot of yoga classes and maybe a day off here and there and a gratitude journal and someone to clean your house once every couple of weeks or once a month. So when we're looking at the bigger picture of, again, what does this unique person need to best optimize their health, right? What do they need to minimize? What do they need to maximize? What do they need to prioritize? Lab data can be really, really valuable. I'm a big fan, right? I'm a geek, love numbers. But especially in the world of toxins, your body is not interested in showing you the toxins for you to measure them. In fact, the body's favorite place to store toxins is in adipose tissue, body fat. And there's some interesting science that says that one of the reasons why we would experience an increase in the size of our fat cells is because the body wants there to be a bigger storage facility to put more toxins in. So it's actually a defensive response to protect organs and glands from toxins. Isn't that fascinating? Right? The body doesn't pack on adipose tissue because it doesn't like you. Or because it's just doing it, right? The body sees this as choices to ensure the security and the vitality of the body. And if we don't like what the body's doing, we need to change the cues and clues that it's giving it. So it's kind of a long answer, but I'm not a fan of generalized toxicity testing because I think so often it misses what the smoking gun is, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Unless people need the motivation. And again, we have to be sensitive to individuals and what they are looking for, what they want to do.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. In the interest of time, you guys, we're at 4:06. Let's take about another 10 minutes to wrap up, but I want to jump into real quick If you can just, we've got questions in here. How do we know what our bodies uniquely need? I mean, that's an intuition and all of those things. In my opinion, we need to be in touch with ourselves before we even remotely can I get a good idea of what we need at all. Do you have another opinion about that?
Yeah, intuition is big. And I think one of the most important things that we as coaches can do when we are educating our clients with all of our knowledge is that we don't, through sharing our knowledge, allow our clients to form the impression that you know everything and they know nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a major disservice. I think the wisest piece of information in any therapeutic encounter is the client's intuition. You don't know their body, you just met them. Hopefully you're going to form a great relationship and lots of rapport and connection and intimacy and sharing. But educating them in a way that helps them to see that they can understand this too. Like, oh, I get it. Okay, cool. It's why I like to teach complicated biochemical concepts using very simple storytelling, very simple analogies, right? Because I can draw a complicated diagram with all sorts of acronym profiles, but that's just going to make people's eyes glaze over. If I can use a plumbing analogy, everyone on the planet understands plumbing to some degree out of household necessity, right?
Right.
I think intuition is hugely important. I do like to teach patterns of symptoms and presentation, right? That can inform that intuition. We do a lot of that, right? Because there are things that we know, right? There are classic symptoms of hypothyroid function, even when blood labs of thyroid hormone look perfect. There are classic symptoms of zinc deficiency. There are classic symptoms of vitamin B12 deficiency, right? I think these are things that we can learn as coaches and teach our clients so they can know also in order to inform their intuition. And I think there's also a lot of pearls to be gained from lab data, right? Even everyday annual physical lab data. I think there's multiple, pieces of information that we can pull together, but if people are eating crap food, it's highly likely they're going to be deficient in everything. So before we start trying to look at testing and supplements and everything else, maybe we should just eat real food. I don't know, radical. And give the body maximum exposure to have an opportunity. Maybe we should stop eating in our car while rushing through traffic to get to a meeting so that we actually have good digestion. So the nutrients we eat can actually get in the body.
Yeah. I know. It's
not
simple.
Sexy, but it's powerful.
And it's basically simple, getting back to what we should be doing in the first place. I always like to teach my coaches, I always say, when we're talking to our people, I like to say, I'm not in your body. You're the expert of yourself. So when we're talking about what's going on with you, like if you say, what should I eat? I'm going to turn it back around and say, what does your body tell you you need? Like, these are the conversations we should be having. This helps them to be empowered to not need us in the future, right? In my eyes, the future is that no health coaches have jobs and neither do doctors, because we've done our job so well that we've gotten rid of all of the problems and we've taught people how to care for themselves. It's not going to happen in our lifetime.
I was going to say, I love that. I think the reality is there's infinite employment for health coaches.
Yes.
And then physicians are only handling acute emergency intervention.
Yes.
Right?
Battleground medicine.
Yeah, because I fell down and hit my head, or I was in a car accident, right? Or I burned my finger. But I really do, I think it's so powerful to, like you said, you're the master of yourself. And when people don't have an intuition, I'm a big fan of experimenting. Like, okay, the classic breakfast experiment. Okay, well, let's do an experiment, right? So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to try 4 different breakfasts. And each of these breakfasts, I want you to consider eating for 3 days in a row. And let's write down, how do you feel, right? How does this breakfast sound, right? Does this appeal to you? You don't like it. Okay, let's change it up. So it still is maybe a high protein breakfast, a high fat breakfast, a high fruit breakfast, right? A high fiber breakfast, whatever it might be. Let them experience it and take notes. And then they're going to come back and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know then, but I know now. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then you're building their self-confidence, and people only really get empowered when they're self-confident. And so I often will recommend experiments. People will say, my husband's taking this supplement and it's helping him and I really want to try it and I think it will help me. Okay, well, let's talk about it. And maybe why don't you try it for a week and see how you feel? Right?
Yeah.
Does that feel good to you? Yeah, that's what I want to do. You take notes, right? It's a controlled experiment, which is how science knows anything it knows, by the way. We weren't born being omniscient about any of this. We
Mm-mm.
experiment and we learn.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, another, I think it's a great point about, you know, eating something and seeing how you feel is the, you know, not having dessert for breakfast. Have dessert for breakfast for a couple of days and then see how you feel, you know, postprandial or a couple hours later or whatever. You feel like crap, it makes you tired. What does your intuition tell you that means? What is the meaning of
Yeah.
that experience and that reaction you have to that waffle with the Pop-Tart and orange juice, right? Yeah, I know, but this is reality. Yeah, this is what's happening.
Totally. I'm in.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
Okay, are we ready to hand over to Jen and let her talk about her
Yeah,
experience?
please, for
Okay,
sure.
that's fantastic, Tracy, as always. You're just I mean, gosh, we could do a 12-hour webinar and still keep going, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's my
Yeah,
passion. Thank you. I
yes.
appreciate the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, so Jen, go ahead and pop in.
Yeah, well, learning from Tracy, you guys all got like a really good sample. I've been learning from her for years, and I just took like 5 pages of notes. So, I mean, yeah, you're brilliant, Tracy.
Thank you.
So I am here talking to your audience and talking to your students today as a health coach, guys. As a health coach who actually I started off at IIN, which I know Tracy and Carmen, that's where you guys got your start. From there, I started building my practice and in coaching, and I just felt like I needed to understand more about the body and really get underneath like what my clients were coming to me with. And I'll never forget my very first client who came and said, all right, I've got a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. I'm on a statin. I don't want to be on a statin. It doesn't make me feel very good. And I don't want to go on metformin. Can you help me, Jen? And of course, you know, I knew the basics of all the foundations of health that you teach, Carmen, but I just felt like I needed to know a little bit more. I took one class at SAFM. It was a clinical course. I wasn't enrolled as a semester student, and it was reversing diabetes at the time. And I applied it, and it was like magic. I mean, everything that I learned there, it gave me a little better understanding and insight into what metabolic dysfunction really was, like what was actually occurring for this client. So I stepped in to SAFM. It wasn't actually SAFM at the time. We were wildly successful health coaches. And I did my first core 101 semester. And that's what I'm here. I just wanted to really briefly like speak to your audience because I do get a lot of questions. And we've had a lot of students did do what I did, which was kind of step into SAFM and then step over to you, Carmen, or vice versa, or maybe they're craving a little bit more. And people ask me questions a lot. A lot of your students, I know a couple of them messaged me. They were excited that I was going to be here just to speak to being a student of SAFM and a graduate of the program. And how do I do that? Like, how do I do that as a health coach? So I actually took a semester off at SAFM in between and hopped on over. And I was part of your very first semester at IFHC, Carmen. Mm-hmm. Right, right when you launched that program, and I jumped in because I really did feel, and this is what I do want to emphasize to your audience. And at SAFM, we do. You know, we do ask that people who are coming in, they do have a practice, whether they are a medical professional and that's patients, or a body work professional or a health coach, that you are already established, because that's not the place, as you guys just got a little taste from Tracy, like you receive really, really rich clinical know-how and learning and understanding, and you become this super sleuth detective. But I needed to some more business building foundations, and that's where I got that from you. And I also very, very honestly needed to kind of be knocked over the head a little bit and reminded that we still have to always be addressing foundations of health. There is no point in running really expensive functional testing on a client who is eating crap food. Like Tracy said, we can work on that for 3-6 months before we start running micronutrient panels and getting into all the data, because what are we going to do with that data? You know, if they're eating crap food or they're in a horrible relationship, you know, there's so many other things that we bring into coaching And I think I truthfully needed to be reminded of that. And you really, you know, IFHC was so beneficial and powerful for me. But then I went back. You know, I'm a learner. I do not come from a medical background whatsoever. Any of you guys listening to Tracy today, I mean, you kept it simple, Trace, but you know, she goes into a lot of depth. You know, it's rigorous, but I was a teacher, and if you know, if I can understand this and learn to apply it, and really start to puzzle piece, anybody can do it. Truly, anybody can do it. And so I've been able to really take my coaching practice to a completely different level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is not for everybody. You know, it's not like every health coach out there has to have all of this functional medicine education and understanding about the body. You really might, your comfort zone, your zone of genius really might just be working with people on foundations and really using your intuition to see what do they need most. You know, where do they need you to help guide them, along with of course engaging them in that relationship, because we're coaches. It's a beautiful space that we're able to create for people. But for me, I really craved better understanding, so that in my puzzle piecing with my clients, I'm able to guide them. And what I would say, like, I still don't have like a niche. Like, I'm not that coach who, maybe someday I will. Like, I work with women, you know, between the ages of 45 and 50 on their hormones, you know, and that for some people works beautiful. I really feel like right now, at least in the past few years in my practice, I've been very successful being that super sleuth detective, that coach that helps people get to address root cause. You know, and if that root cause is they're stressed out of their mind, then we work on that. Sometimes I am able to bring in data. You know, a client I met with yesterday, we are really coming far, but she came to me with reoccurring H. pylori. She knew she had that. She came, she wasn't finding any relief. So yes, I was able to bring in some data. We confirmed that. But I have to say, the majority of the coaching that her and I do together, even though yes, we are using supplements, we have brought in some testing, we have data, the majority of the work that her and I are doing is what is underneath the H. pylori. It's stress, you know, it's a huge lack of self-worth, and she lives in a sympathetic state because even this allowing of her body and her mind to ever even get to a parasympathetic state, she has a really hard time with. And it's so beautiful because I've seen her, not me, her, move the needle in her health. But for someone like that, she found me because she wanted someone who is going to be able to like pull all of this together. Her doctor identified H. pylori, right? But nobody had ever talked to her about what was underneath that, you know, what was there. So that space, guys, as coaches, we really have a very unique and powerful opportunity to be able to work with people in this way. So if you are someone who wants to better understand the body and that the deep interconnectedness, and then bring it into your practice. I mean, truly for me, SAFM has been a huge blessing, because Tracy does a beautiful job really integrating all of health and wellness. Yes, you teach, I'd say like 90% of what you teach is the clinical, but yet you're always reminding us as students and as practitioners, as coaches, you know, whoever is in front of you, to not miss. You're always saying, you know, don't miss the forest through the trees. You know, we saw that on one of the slides that she presents today, or that optimal health is not complicated, right? It's not complicated. So, you know, we need to help our clients, support them in figuring out what do they need to maximize, minimize, and prioritize. And in there, we've got those health foundations. Absolutely. I always tell my clients, like, we all have some things that go into the same bucket. Like we all need sleep and nutrients and whole foods and healthy relationships. But maybe, like Tracy, maybe your body needs more B12. So let's look and see, if that is the case for you, and how do you do that? So that's really what SAFM has helped me do and grow my practice. And what has happened, insofar as we still have to go out and market ourselves. We still have to figure out what that's going to look like for us, whether we're using social media or we're giving free talks. And but I can say that doing what I'm doing now and my ability to really help people find relief. Some of that relief is rapid. Some of it is, my goal is really that I release them in a sense from my care, from working with them, so that now they're really, they're activated, they're owners. They feel like they have their owner manual of their own health in their hand, and they can go be the drivers, right, of their health, like you were saying before, Carmen. So yeah, I mean, but it's helped me. I mean, most of my clients come from referral right now. It's like just a referral, it's, I heard of you, a friend, my doctor. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And I do attribute so much of that to my ability to help people, and from the teaching that I got from like this woman right here, as you guys were able to sample today.
Yeah. So I want to
That's
throw
awesome.
something out here too. Let me throw something out here, because people have asked me all the time. They're like, when I host someone like Tracy, they're like, what, she does a coaching school and you do a coaching school. Aren't you guys competing? I want to put I want to throw this out there for you right now. I don't compete with anybody but myself when it comes to exercise and things like that. But I'm a big believer in collaboration. And as I mentioned earlier, where I don't feel a need, I find people that fill it in a way that makes me feel like I can trust them to care for the people that I send to them. And, in all honesty, if you haven't seen, even through this presentation right here, we're very aligned in what we believe, right? We're in, I don't even, to look inside her head. I had breakfast, lunch with her one time, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I could sit here for a week and absorb all this information, I still wouldn't even touch the top of it, right? But what I want to say is we complement each other so well, because I have people all the time, they come to me and they say, well, I want to know everything there is to know about symptoms and problems and diseases and nutrition. I'm like, okay, we don't do that, right? We teach you how to coach. We give you all the business skills. We've got 18 weeks of content. But if you want to deep dive and really get your brain in that scientific place, Tracy's your person. It's not going to be me. That's not what I do. I will never want to do that. She says, I love numbers. I say they give me hives. So we have a complementary relationship here. So I say this to people all the time. I say, get your foundation built, get your business going, like you guys are saying, right? But when you're ready to take it deeper, don't go out and buy a $27 course in the microbiome. Don't go out and watch, 25 hours of a summit that you pay $497 for. Put your money into something that you're going to be able to sink your teeth into. Get the really deep stuff from, get the support that you need amongst people who are doing what you do. And that is what Tracy offers. It truly is what I believe that you offer to people.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
and the support is, that above itself is so important, right? Because if you gave me a manual of stuff, or even the slides you gave me today, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's great. Oh my gosh. But the way that you deliver and the fact that you walk through it in a way that makes sense, that's everything. That's everything, because we want to learn so much. There's only so much time in a day. So
absolutely. And then as a semester student, when you step into SAFM, I mean, you really are stepping into a support system. It's very different from signing up for, there's a lot of courses out there, guys. You could take courses ranging from, a couple $100 to a couple thousands. Like I'm actually quite astonished what people will charge just to learn this one test, right? Yeah. So you can do that. Absolutely. That might be the way your brain works. But if you really are looking to be able to fully integrate this and understand it yourself, because we need to understand it so that we can apply it. Because like Tracy was sharing with us, our job is not to go tell people what to do, not at all. My goal here is not to just, become like another and not speaking poorly of allopathic physicians in any way, but like an allopathic physician, you know, who's just has this like fancy functional medicine and I just prescribe herbs and supplements, you know, that's not empowering people. So, but when you're at SAFM, you are just inundated in this community where you have support from every angle. You are listening to Tracy teach, but then you are also supported in a forum where you can present your client cases and get feedback from people who are trained to monitor. You are put into small group huddles where you like on a Zoom, like we're right here, where you meet with your huddle group so that you have these conversations. You know, you have open coaching calls throughout the entire semester where you get cases and you practice and you practice and you practice. You know, people will say to me, Jen, I am blessed to be able to help and monitor new students in huddles, and they'll say, how do you understand this stuff? And trust me, like in the beginning, it didn't, but it's repetition and consistency over and over and over. So SAFM really does provide that. And I think at an incredibly reasonable price. And that's really reflective of Tracy, of you and your heart and your mission to activate people and take this out into the world, because our goal is to help people. You know, we're all like-minded in our love of health and wellness, but we're also very, very like-hearted in our passion for wanting to help people. You know, that's the space that we all hold here. And that's why we all get along so well. You know, you so instantly connect with another person who is stepping into this space. So yeah, that was really my goal. I know we were like, taking this is so long, but I wanted to just really be able to kind of step in here after you guys got a little sample of Tracy and just hear from someone who is in your space, guys. Like, I am a coach. I am someone who's taking this knowledge and I'm applying it in my practice, but I'm really applying it in a coaching model. You know, people, I do get people who ask me, because of what I do you do 1-ounce sessions? You know, is it 1 ounce? Can I just book you and do just this? And just today I said to someone who I don't know, like found me on the internet, would you just do a GI map with me? And I've done that. And once in a while I will, when maybe it's working with another coach who's not trained. But I said no, because that I'm not going to serve you. You know, I can do a test. I can see all kinds of crazy badness, right? And then throw a whole supplement protocol at you. I don't know what's underneath that test. I don't know if there's toxins and crap food and stress. And I'm not going to be with you to coach you through all of that. So no, I can't do that for you. So if anyone has questions, like I did want to say to your audience, if anyone ever has questions about SAFM or, you know, what it was like to transition from IFHC and SAFM and what does it look like for me in my practice, please reach out. I'm happy to like hop on a call with you and talk to you about any of it.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're going to be providing the slides in the replay. I'll have Jen's email in the replay and how to get in touch with Tracy, how to look into SAFM as a compliment, a real compliment to what you're doing right now, and to really take yourself deeper. And I'm loving the comments. We're going to wrap up because I do hear stirring below me with dogs and children. But I love these comments that Fonda says, I love Carmen. I love what Tracy's doing. I can't believe I'm watching you both live right now. And I hear this a lot. I hear people go, oh, I love Tracy and I love you. And do you guys ever work together? And we're like, we have been like collaborating. Maybe we should do it more, but I do hear that quite a bit. And Bobby said it beautifully. And Bobby's one of my students, and absolutely, I mean, she's a superstar. She said, IFHC provides a roadmap and Tracy provides the locations and the facts about where you're trying to get to. I think that's a fantastic way to think about how we work together. So, you know, you guys, what we can do is endless. Everything that we can do for people, there's no end to it. The things that you can add to your business, and what you're saying, Tracy, about like, this could be a topic in itself, like going out and speaking to your community about one thing. Like one thing could turn into a 4-week series, you know, but you have to have the knowledge and the delivery and the understanding and the way to actually speak to people so they understand. So, you know, just kudos to the way that you deliver. Thank you for all of the amazing information you're bringing to us. And Jen, thanks for sharing your experience as well, you guys.
Yeah.
So loved having you so much. And
yeah, thank you so much. Can I just say one thing real quick? First of all, thank you both for all of your kind words. I really appreciate that. I'm grateful for that. One of the things, Carmen, I wanted to make sure you're aware that we decided we have a 4-webinar series on true root causes of disease that we are going to offer to your community free of charge.
Oh, great.
And so I'm just going to post it real quick here on the chat thread for people who are aware, but that we can include the link on the replay as well.
Yep, I'll grab it.
And it's 4 full-length webinars on root causes of disease. It's something I've done before. It's not a sales pitch. I don't believe in those. I like to deliver value, and hoping that it will be of service to you right away. And if you enjoy what you learn, I would certainly welcome you considering joining us in our semester program. The next one kicks off in the middle of April. And if you register by, I think it's the 3rd week of March, you actually get a free extra clinical course, no charge, just as a bonus.
Wow.
But this is 4 full-length webinars that dive into the most common root causes of disease through the functional medicine lens. So if you enjoy what we talked about today, don't miss out on that, because that's just an extra bonus, and happy to share that.
Much appreciated. Yeah, you're an overgiver. I'm an overgiver. We're all overgivers. Jen's an overgiver. Maybe we need a silent retreat for all the overgivers in the world, right? But then all the health coaches would show up and we'd end up working. So there's that. Sharing information. Oh my gosh. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the training. Thank you for the presentation. Jen, thanks for sharing your experience. You know, we will be talking soon, and I will have that replay out. We like 24 to 48 hours, you guys. I had 2 webinars today, 2 interviews today. So it's going to take time. And I see some of you were on the one earlier and you're on the one here today. So please just a little bit of patience with getting that all out for you guys. Thank you so much again. Have a great rest of the night, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.